Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Let's Solve UPSC. In this video, we are going to discuss about how do we prepare polity for mains as well as for prelims. Some things about me first. I had a score of 400 in NEET UG. I have completed my Bachelor of Dental Surgery. I have given mains 2023 and 2024 and I am presently awaiting my mains results of 2024. Now, in the prelims of 2023, I had a decent enough score of 92.26, but I could not clear the mains of 2023 because of a low score in my optional. So now, for polity, the biggest question that comes in our mind is Lakshmikant only sufficient to clear polity? The answer is both yes as well as no. Let's look into it. Number one, let's look at the advantages of the subject polity. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल इट इज़ वेरी स्कोरिंग. आपको प्रीलिम्स में ऐसे बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस आएंगे जो कि आपको डायरेक्टली पता होंगे. लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल इन 2024 एक क्वेश्चन था रिगार्डिंग राइट टू प्राइवेसी जिसका आंसर इज वेरी सिंपल एज यू वुड हैव नोन आर्टिकल 21. नेक्स्ट, आपको ह्यूज रेपुटेशन देखने के लिए मिलता है इन बोथ प्रीलिम्स एज वेल एज इन मेंस. नाउ बट देयर आर सर्टेन डिसएडवांटेजेस टू इट आल्सो. फर्स्ट, Lakshmikant is sufficient for prelims, but it is not for mains. You cannot clear the mains syllabus of polity by just studying Lakshmikant. Number two, there are easily forgettable things in polity. जैसे कि आपको बहुत सारे acts याद करने पड़ेंगे, आपको बहुत सारे articles याद करने पड़ेंगे, आपको बहुत सारे amendments याद करने पड़ेंगे. These are very easily forgettable. And number three, bulky sources. अगर आप लक्ष्मीकांत को देखोगे तो इट इज इजीली अराउंड 1200 पेजेस की बुक है लक्ष्मीकांत. एंड ऑल्सो देर आर अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स टू स्टडी इन इट. प्लस आप कोई सा भी सोर्स आप लोगे पॉलिटी का, इट इज वेरी बल्की. नाउ लेट अस लुक इनटू द प्रीलिम्स पार्ट ऑफ पॉलिटी. इफ यू सी हियर द नंबर ऑफ क्वेश्चंस इन पॉलिटी on an average are 15 questions per year. This is a document by Vision IAS and their analysis is pretty much correct itself. So, on an average, आपको 15 क्वेश्चन हर साल प्रीलिम्स में पॉलिटी से आ रहे हैं. दैट मीन्स यू हैव अ चांस ऑफ स्कोरिंग अराउंड 30 मार्क्स फ्रॉम पॉलिटी अलोन. अगर आप इस 30 मार्क्स का एटलीस्ट 60% भी कर लेते हो, that means you will be scoring around 18 marks in polity itself, and 60% is still very low as compared to what usually people who can clear prelims they do. Now next, if you look at the mains part, there are around 5 questions which are 10 markers and there are about 5 questions of 15 markers each. Now these 10 questions make up about 50% of the total GS2 marks. Now, GS2 does not have only polity, it also has governance and it also has social justice as well. So, but only the polity part, it gets you 50% of the marks, that is 125 out of 250. Now, let us look at the main syllabus first so that we can understand polity में basically पूछा क्या जाता है. Part 1, इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, इट्स हिस्टोरिकल अंडरपिनिंग्स, जिसमें हम वेरियस एक्ट्स जो हैं जैसे गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट ऑफ 1919 और द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट ऑफ 1935 ये सब पढ़ते हैं. हाउ आवर इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज इवॉल्व्ड, द फीचर्स ऑफ आवर इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, जैसे कि फॉर एग्जांपल कुछ यूनिटरी फीचर्स है उसमें, कुछ फेडरल फीचर्स है उसमें. नेक्स्ट, द वेरियस इंपॉर्टेंट अमेंडमेंट्स विच वी हैव टू स्टडी, जैसे 99th अमेंडमेंट हुआ था फॉर द NJAC और द 100th अमेंडमेंट हुआ था with Bangladesh. Now, there are also significant provisions of the constitution and also the basic structure doctrine, which is a very, very favorite part of UPSC. Now, number 2, functions and responsibilities of the union and the states, issues and challenges pertaining to the federal structure, which means federalism. Next, devolution of powers and finances up to local levels and challenges therein. That means we have to read the devolution of powers and finances up to local level. इसका मतलब है we have to read panchayats and municipalities in very detail and also about the powers they have, the finances they get and also the challenges in functioning or various other things. Next, number 3, the separation of powers between various organs, that is, the separation of powers between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, the various dispute redressal mechanisms like tribunals or other alternate dispute resolution mechanisms, and various other such institutions. Now, number 4, comparison of Indian constitutional scheme with that of other countries. This has been the second most favorite part of UPSC because every alternate year there is at least one question comparing Indian constitutional scheme with other countries. Like for example, comparing the Indian constitution with French constitution, or Indian judiciary to the British judiciary, or the USA parliament. We are getting these questions very regularly now. Now, number 5, parliament and state legislatures, the structure, how do they function, their conduct of businesses, the powers and privileges, and various issues arising out of those. Okay, so parliament and state legislature is also an important part of the mains syllabus. Now, number 6, structure, organization and functioning of the executive and judiciary. That means when you are reading separation of powers, you have to study each one of them in detail also, as well as the differences in the powers between them. Now, in this part, you have to read about the various ministries, the departments of the government, the pressure groups, formal and informal associations, and their role in polity. Okay. So now the pressure groups, NGOs, or various civil society organizations are very important in this part of polity. Now, next, salient features of Representation of People's Act. That means the Representations of People Act 1950 and 1951 are very important, and we have to read them in detail because many questions have been asked in the previous years from this part of the syllabus. Now, next, appointment to various constitutional posts, powers, functions and responsibilities of various constitutional bodies. Okay, so that means we have to know the details about various constitutional bodies like CAG, UPSC, Election Commission of India. We have to know the details about them, how their appointment is done, how their powers are being distributed, and what are their functions. Now, the last part, statutory, regulatory, and various other quasi-judicial bodies. Okay. Now, in prelims, basically what happens is you need to have certain basic conceptual understanding. Okay, because if you see in these recent years, questions like constitutionalism and questions of doctrines, various doctrines are being regularly asked. So for that you need a basic conceptual understanding. Next part, certain questions बहुत tough होते हैं, but the point is one option can be eliminated in them and you can get the rest of the options correct. Okay, they are tough, but at least one option can be eliminated from them. And for this, for prelims, Lakshmikant is more than sufficient. Trust me, in all these years I have known it very well that Lakshmikant बहुत ज़्यादा sufficient है, because अपने पहले 2 अटेम्प्ट्स में मुझसे सबसे बड़ी यही गलती हुई थी that I did not read Lakshmikant properly, and that is why I could not clear the first 2 prelims I gave. Now, next, I have given certain important topics which you need to read from Lakshmikant for the prelims. That is fundamental rights, the directive principles of state policy, the fundamental duties, election, parliament, election commissions, next governor and president, and also about the constitution you need to read. Now, next, for the mains part of the syllabus, we have to read about certain Supreme Court judgments. See, mains में आपको directly Supreme Court judgment पे question नहीं आएगा, but you need to know the various case laws, the various judgments, so that आप अपने आंसर में value addition कर सको. जैसे for example, if there is a question on Article 21, right to privacy, then you will have to write the judgment of K.S. Puttaswamy judgment. You need to write that judgment. If you do not write it, your answer will be correct, but it will be incomplete. Next, Representation of People's Act. These are the parts of the question, these are the parts of the syllabus that are being repeated many times in the previous year questions. So, Representation of People's Act is a favorite part of UPSC because अभी ये recently बहुत time से news में आ रहा है. Now, comparison of the constitution, जैसा कि हमने पहले discuss किया था. Next, election and election commission is also important for prelims. बिकॉज ऑफ जो अभी रिसेंटली करंट अफेयर्स में जो आ रहे हैं, जैसे वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन और स्टेट फंडिंग ऑफ इलेक्शंस, दीज आर द टॉपिक्स जो कि आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा. नेक्स्ट, वेरियस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल एंड नॉन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल बॉडीज लाइक कैग, जिसपे क्वेश्चन आता रहता है हमेशा. Okay, then questions related to center state relation or federalism, which is also a very favorite topic of UPSC. Next, about local self government. Why? Because of decentralization, because of DPSP number 40, article 40, Gandhian idea of village decentralization. That is because local self government is important, and it came in our 73rd and 74th amendment of 1992. Next, number 8, separation of powers. It is very important because in the recent times topics like judicial activism or judicial overreach, ये सारी चीजें जो है important है. Next, the last part is parliament, various fundamental rights and DPSP. Now, रिगार्डिंग दीज फंडामेंटल राइट्स एंड डीपीएसपी, द पॉइंट इज, जैसा कि मैंने ऊपर आपको यहां बताया था, इन द सुप्रीम कोर्ट जजमेंट्स यू कैन गेट एन क्वेश्चन ऑन वेरियस स्पेसिफिक आर्टिकल्स लाइक आर्टिकल 21. सो यू विल हैव टू have a knowledge about the overall parts of article, that article specifically, so that आप उस question को easily answer कर सको. Next, let us look at the 2024, some of the 2024 questions. जैसा कि मैंने ऊपर बताया था, this question is on, the first one is on one nation one election, and if you have to write about one nation one election, आपको पता होना चाहिए कि इंडियन इलेक्शन सिस्टम में क्या क्या चैलेंजेस हैं, उसमें हम लोग वे फॉरवर्ड क्या क्या लिख सकते हैं, क्या क्या उसका सिग्निफिकेंस है. यू नीड टू नो ऑल दीज. नाउ नेक्स्ट, उसके बाद में लेट्स लुक एट दिस क्वेश्चन नंबर 3. The growth of cabinet system has practically resulted in the marginalization of parliamentary supremacy. Elucidate. Now, the question on parliament, as I was telling before. Look at question number 4. The duty of comptroller and auditor general is not merely to ensure the legality of expenditure, but also its propriety. This is a question on the part of constitutional and non-constitutional bodies of the syllabus. So we need to have a decent amount of knowledge on various constitutional as well as non-constitutional bodies so that we can write an answer. Next, number 5, the role of local bodies in providing good governance at the local level and bring out the pros and cons, merging the local bodies with urban local bodies, merging the rural local bodies with the urban local bodies. Now, the local bodies, the 73rd and 74th Amendment Act of 1992, as I was talking about. Now, if you look at the past 10 years of previous year questions, which is uploaded on my Telegram channel, you will see such repetitions occurring many times. So, syllabus and the PYQs, they give you a direction on how to study well. Now, next, what should the resources we should be following? For prelims, Lakshmikant as well as the 11th NCERT are more than sufficient enough to cover all your questions. And next, the main heart and soul of the prelims polity questions is the PYQs. Previous year questions आपको करके ही जाना पड़ेगा. And by previous year questions, I do not mean कि just question को देखा, आंसर देखा उसका और चले गए आगे. No. There is only one right option, but there are 3 wrong options. So आपको उन तीनों रॉन्ग ऑप्शंस के बारे में भी सर्टेन बेसिक अंडरस्टैंडिंग होनी चाहिए. यू नीड टू हैव सम बेसिक नॉलेज अबाउट दोज 3 रॉन्ग ऑप्शंस एज वेल. नाउ, फॉर द मेंस पार्ट, द मेन थिंग you need to do is the previous year questions, which will tell us what topics we should read, what topics we should study. Next, Lakshmikant. Why am I telling to read Lakshmikant for mains is because there are certain answers in which you have to write the articles as well as amendments as well as the case law और Supreme Court judgment, जो कि मैं जिसके बारे में पहले बात कर रहा था. So वो सब आपको मिलेंगे लक्ष्मीकांत से. Next, the 11th NCERT. 11th NCERT क्यों? Because 11th NCERT में the questions on federalism, the questions on constitutionalism, ये सारी चीजें जो है बहुत डिटेल में डेल्ट की हुई हैं. Right, the evolution of the constitution, why was the constitution framed, ये सारे questions, these kind of like static conceptual questions, ये आपको 11th के NCERT में easily मिल जाएंगे. Next, mains 365. Why? Because mains 365 gives you the topics which are in current affairs and which you need to have some content prepared on. Now, फॉर वैल्यू एडिशन यू नीड टू यूज टॉपर कॉपीज। आप टॉपर कॉपीज देखिए, आप वो आंसर्स कैसे लिख रहे हैं आप उसको देखें। बट फर्स्टली आई वुड सजेस्ट कि जब आप टॉपर कॉपीज देखें देन आप उनके क्वेश्चंस को देखिए, देन गिव योरसेल्फ एटलीस्ट 2 to 3 मिनट्स उसको ब्रेनस्टॉर्म करने का। दैट अगर फॉर एग्जांपल मान लीजिए इलेक्शन कमीशन का क्वेश्चन आता है तो आप ब्रेनस्टॉर्म इजीली कर सकें कि व्हाट आर द चैलेंजेस ऑफ इलेक्शन कमीशन। Okay, now what way forwards are you thinking that should work here? Next, look at the topper copies after that. तब आपको समझ में आएगा कि आपकी और उनकी थिंकिंग में गैप कहाँ पे आ रहा है, वेदर कंटेंट का गैप आ रहा है या प्रैक्टिस का गैप आ रहा है। तब आपको समझ में आएगा एक्चुअली व्हाट यू नीड टू इम्प्रूव अपॉन। एंड प्लस द टॉपर कॉपीज हैव आल्सो मेनी डेटा, इट हैज एम्पल अमाउंट ऑफ डेटा एंड कमिटीज जिसको आप आराम से तो उठाइए वहां से, उसको आप वेरीफाई कीजिए एंड देन पुट देम इन योर नोट्स। Then the last part is you should read an ARC summary. Okay, the Administrative and Reforms Commission की summary को आप प्लीज पढ़ लीजिए, बिकॉज what happens is ARC में बहुत सारे टॉपिक्स या इश्यूज के जो है वे फॉरवर्ड्स ऑलरेडी प्रिपेयर्ड मिलेंगे आपको। सो आपको वहां पे सोचना नहीं पड़ेगा। एंड जब आप आंसर में लिखेंगे इस ARC समरी के वे फॉरवर्ड्स को, देन यू विल बी राइटिंग द करेक्ट थिंग। आप गलत चीज नहीं लिख रहे हो, बिकॉज जब ARC ने बोला है इसका मतलब है कि दैट इज करेक्ट। नाउ फॉर द पीपल हु हैव स्टेड टिल द एंड, उनके लिए एक रिवॉर्ड है ये। हाउ डू वी रिमेंबर लक्ष्मीकांत, जिसके बारे में हमने बात करी थी, दैट इट इज इजीली फॉरगेटेबल। First, you have to do multiple revisions. There is only one thing that you have to do multiple revisions, but you need to use the technique of active learning. Now, how do we do active learning? For example, take the topic of precedent in Lakshmikant. Then, once you have read it at least 2 times, read it at least 2 times. Then after that, shut Lakshmikant बुक को बंद कर दीजिए आप। देन ट्राई टू थिंक अबाउट, ओके सो प्रेसिडेंट इज अ पार्ट ऑफ द एग्जीक्यूटिव, प्रेसिडेंट के आर्टिकल्स जो है स्टार्टिंग में कौन कौन सा है, ओके फाइन। देन प्रेसिडेंट का अपॉइंटमेंट कैसे हो रहा है, ट्राई टू जस्ट थिंक, ओके ट्राई टू जस्ट थिंक। अगर आपको लग रहा है दैट यू शुड स्क्रिबल इट कोई नोटबुक में, जस्ट ट्राई टू ऐसे छोटा छोटा जस्ट स्क्रिबल इट डाउन, ओके। देन ट्राई टू थिंक, ओके प्रेसिडेंट का रिमूवल ऐसे होगा, प्रेसिडेंट का टेन्योर इतना है, प्रेसिडेंट अपॉइंट होने के लिए देयर आर सर्टेन क्वालिफिकेशंस वो ये हैं, देन देयर आर सर्टेन लेजिस्लेटिव फंक्शंस ऑफ द प्रेसिडेंट वो क्या क्या है, देन देयर आर सर्टेन फाइनेंशियल फंक्शंस ऑफ द प्रेसिडेंट वो क्या क्या है। ऐसे ही करके आप प्रेसिडेंट का टॉपिक को पढ़िए। देन बुक खोलिए, बुक खोल के फिर से उस प्रेसिडेंट को वापस से देखिए, तब आपको दिखेगा यू विल फाइंड द थिंग्स दैट वर मिसिंग, जो कि आप भूल रहे हैं। व्हाट डू यू डू, उस टॉपिक या उस पॉइंट के आगे एक बॉक्स बना दीजिए या एक सर्कल बना दीजिए। ओके, मेक अ बॉक्स और अ सर्कल ऑन द साइड ऑफ दैट टॉपिक, क्योंकि जब नेक्स्ट टाइम आप इस प्रेसिडेंट को पढ़ोगे देन आपके दिमाग में सबसे पहले ये बॉक्स ये सर्कल जो है यही आएगा कि हाँ ये लास्ट टाइम मुझसे मिस हुआ था, एंड नाउ आपके दिमाग में सबसे पहले ये वाला पार्ट जो है ये आएगा। Okay, so this is how active learning works. Please do try this technique. Okay, it is a very famous and it is a well tested technique. Please do try this technique and then please let me know in the comment section of the video whether you find this effective or not. Now, the link to my Telegram channel is in the description box, and I hope this video works out for you well, and all the best for your preparation. Let's solve UPSC. Thank you.